5-6, the quadratic formula and the discriminant. So we already talked about this a little bit, but the quadratic formula is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. You may also see it sometimes equals y. All right? Okay, so before you can identify A, B, and C of the quadratic formula, it always has to be equal to 0. This is extremely important. It's got to be set equal to 0. Notice, not equal to 0, definitely not equal to 0, definitely not equal to 0. So we want everything on the same side. All right? So to do this, we need to move this over. Now you can do that, show your work, minus 10, whatever. You're going to get it up with x squared minus 5x, and then 3 minus 10 is negative 7, and that's equal to 0. Now at this point, you can identify the three key important pieces of information, A, B, and C. Okay? A is here, B is here, and C is there. So what is the number in front of the x squared? It's 1. It's not written there, but it's 1. All right? B is negative 5, and C is negative 7. Those are our three numbers from the quadratic equation. Now, over here, number 2, we got two things to move. We got to move the 2x over, and we got to move the negative 5 over. Now notice, on the left side, there is no x term. There's an x squared, but there's no x. So when it moves over, it just simply becomes negative 2x. Positive on the right, negative on the left. When we move the 5 over, remember, don't do this mentally in your head and mess up and say, oh, 4 minus 5 is negative 1. To move, no, because remember, to move the negative 5 over, what do we have to do? Add it, right? So we're going to add 5 and get plus 9, and there's our key equals 0. Once we see that, we're ready to move on. And now we can identify A, B, and C. We're going to move these both over. Again, there is no x to join with, so when we move that x over, it's just going to be negative x squared minus x, and then when we move the 10 over by subtraction, we end up with positive 3 equals 0. We know we're good to go. So this is really a negative 1. This is a negative 1, and that's a 3. Remember, if you have questions, stop me, ask me. I move too fast. You need to go back. Please say something. Okay, so there's three different ways to solve quadratics. Everybody's favorite, factoring. Okay. So we got square rooting, which we did yesterday, and quadratic formulas. Okay, so here is that quadratic formula. X equals the opposite of B plus or minus the square root of this entire part, B squared minus 4AC. And here's the key part, all over 2A. So common, I see students, even in Algebra 2, who only put the 2A underneath this part and not this. The 2A is under the entire part here. That's why it says x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root. Negative b, opposite b, whatever. So if b was a 5, this would end up being negative 5. If b was negative 3, this would end up being positive 3 out here. Okay? But that's why it says plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, the whole thing over 2a. And then this part right here underneath the radical is called the discriminant, which is right at the top of the
Ain't that under the thing, ain't that what you put under the in the calculator?
Okay, so the discriminant is just this part, b squared minus 4ac. And it tells you how many different solutions there are. So if you calculate, so what you're asking, if you put this into the calculator, okay, just b squared minus 4ac, you will get one of three choices. You could get 0, you could get a positive number, or you could get a negative number. Okay? So you have three choices. You crunch the numbers and you get 17. You crunch the numbers, you get 0. Or you crunch the numbers and you get negative 4. Those are three choices. Not just negative 4, but any negative number, any positive number, and 0. Alright? So these are three possibilities. Now, what does that mean? The quadratic formula tells you where a parabola, okay, a smile or a frown, where those two cross the x-axis. Okay, they're solutions. They're the x-intercepts. So if I have 0 solutions, okay, if I get 0, that means I have one solution. If I get 0 underneath the radical, that means I have one solution. And so that means this just comes down and touches at one spot right there. Or maybe it hits right there. One spot. It kind of bounces off the floor, bounces off the ceiling. Okay? The parabola just barely hits and comes back down. It comes down, it just hits, and goes back up. Okay? Think about when you were a little kid. You went to the park with somebody. You went to the park. And when you were real little, your parents had somebody to pick you up and put you on the swing and then push you. And like most kids, you remember or can remember that first time you were able to actually get your feet on the ground. You're big enough to touch the ground and push yourself. Remember that? Remember you're big enough to push yourself? Well, when you would swing and your feet would just graze the ground, would just touch the ground, that's one solution. Okay? You would just at one time hit the ground and you would swing some more. You come back down, you graze your feet, you go back up. But you just hit that one spot. You're just big enough then. That's one solution. If you get a positive number, that means there's two solutions. So your parabola comes down, goes underneath, and comes back up, like so. Or maybe it does this. Okay? It hits twice. It comes up through the x-axis and comes back down. Your pencil broken? Or your hand? And then if you get negative, that means there's no solutions. So it does something like this. It never actually hits the x-axis. So when you crunch the number, the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, you plug b, a, and c in, you're going to get either 0, positive, or negative. One solution, two, or none. No real solutions. Okay, so to find the value of the discriminant, then determine how many solutions there would be, and if they be rational or irrational, as well as real or non-real. Okay, so in this case, my A, it's always a good place to start by identifying A, B, and C. So A is 1, negative 5, and 3. Now, I suggest also you start by writing b squared minus 4ac first. Writing the skeleton, then filling in your numbers. Now be careful, we talked about this yesterday. When you plug b in here, negative 5, remember, when you type in your calculator, which you should not have to, if you type in your calculator, you've got to put it in parentheses. Otherwise, when you type in -5 squared into your calculator, it is going to tell you -25, which is a lie. -5 squared is positive 25. A negative times a negative is positive. Okay? So if you must type this into a calculator, which you should not have to, you should be able to do 5 times 5 in your head. But if you do, you got to put parentheses around it. -4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is 3. That leads us to 25 minus 12, which is 13. Now 13 is what kind of number? Positive, negative, or zero?
Positive.
Positive. Okay? So since it's positive, that means there's two real solutions.
I have a question.
Okay, so identify A, B, and C first. A is what?
1.
1. Good. B is? C is 14. So B squared minus 4AC. Write that out first. Now we fill our numbers in. So that's going to be 9 squared minus 4 times 1 times 14. Now you're putting 9 squared in the calculator. It does not matter. You don't have to put parentheses, so this is a positive number. So this is going to be 81 minus 4 times 14. 14, 20, 56. Okay? 81 minus 56, which is 25. And since that's a positive number, that's going to be two real solutions. Again. Okay, number 3. We've got A, B, and C. A is 5, B is -2, and C is 3. So, B squared minus 4AC. Again, with B being negative, we need to put in parentheses. Minus 4 times 5 times 3. -2 squared is what? -2 times -2. 4. Minus 5 times 4 is 20, times 3 is 60. That means we got -56. Alright? With it being negative, there's no solution. Well, we'll say no real numbers. No real solution. There are solutions, you just don't learn them in Algebra 1, you learn them in Algebra 2. So there's no real numbers at work, because it never crosses the x-axis. Now, what's the problem with number 4?
It's not equal to 0.
Very good. So we got to move both of these over.
Oh, shoot.
And when we do that, they're going to become positive.
Wait, can you not bring the x squared over?
You can, but that's going to change it from being a positive to a happy to a sad. So just leave it the way it was. So if it gives it to you as x squared, keep it that way. So we're going to make it 12x plus 36 equals 0. Now we identify A, B, and C. A is, B is, C is 36. B squared minus 4AC. So 12 squared minus 4 times 1 times 36. We end up with 144 minus 144, which is 0. So that's one real solution. It just hits the x-axis. Okay, that doesn't apply to us because it's functional. So, we're going to practice. Always round, okay? We're going to get decimals. So, unless you're told, just go ahead and always round to the 10th spot. Just round to the 10th place. What? So, well, yeah, we'll get them here in a minute. Okay, so 3 plus the square root of 13 over 2. So what we're going to do is 3 plus the square root of 13 divided by 2, and 3 minus the square root of 13 divided by 2. So take your calculators right now. So for the first one, you should get 3.303 if rounded. Now, remember rounding rules. 0 to 4 round down, keep it the same. 5 to 9 round up. So if we're looking at the 10th spot, which is right there, we're going to look next door at the 0. 0 tells you to round down, so we keep it at 3.3. Now, if we do 3 minus the square root of 13 divided by 2, we get negative 0.3027, basically the same thing, or very close. Okay, so if we're looking here, we look here, it's going to say round down, that's negative 0.3. So in other words, if you think about it, if you had a graph, 3.3 would be somewhere around here, really close to 3, and negative 0.3 is going to be really close to there, and then you'd have your parabola that hits those 2 points, at 3.3 and negative 0.3, really close to the axis. Okay, so this one, again, you're going to do it twice. Negative 6, not plus or minus, plus the square root of 24, then divided by 5, and negative 6 minus the square root of 24, then divided by 5. Be careful with the first one, you're putting in a negative 6, then plus the square root of 24, and then divided by 5, you should have gotten negative 0.2202. Well, for rounding to this spot, we look here, negative 0.2. And put in negative 6 minus the square root of 24, and divide by 5. We get negative 2.179. This time, the 7 tells the 1 to round up, so that's going to be negative 2.2 rounded.